The American physician, Dr. James Marion Sims, has long been known as the father of modern gynecology. His contributions to gynecology are celebrated to this day. The Sims speculum is still used in vaginal examinations. There are statues in his name. And until 2017, one stood proudly in New York's Central Park. But what's been erased from history is the reality of Sims' work. Countless painful experiments on patients who had no choice. Enslaved Black women. Imagine having to undergo surgery without any anesthesia. Well, this was the case for countless slaves, such as Arnica, Betsy, and Lucy, used for his experiments in the popular belief at the time that Black people were subhuman and didn't feel pain. While Sims' work is celebrated, his patients' suffering has long been ignored and forgotten. Ancient history, you might think, but in reality, the consequences of this are much closer than you know.
Today, these biases still exist because we have a healthcare system that is not designed with Black skin in mind. Let's take a condition like PUPS, a rash that can occur during pregnancy. If you try to look at official health websites, you won't be able to see what it looks like on Black skin. These issues don't just stop at the lack of images, it goes deeper than that. Did you know in 2016, a study in the US revealed that half of white medical students and residents continue to believe that Black people have thicker skin or feel less pain. These misconceptions may seem minor, but they are deeply embedded in society and they contribute to systemic medical neglect. Imagine the pain of going through labor and being denied pain relief simply because your healthcare professional doesn't believe you feel pain.
This is the reality that Black women face. The data is undeniable. In 2018, in the UK, Black women were 5 times more likely to die during pregnancy, childbirth, and the 6-week period after. This isn't hypothetical or a one-off statistic. This is the result of systemic gaps in the healthcare system that puts Black women's lives at risk. Today, that figure stands at 2.9 times, and while we welcome progress, we should not take our foot off the gas. These statistics represent lives lost of mothers, daughters, and families torn apart. Take Delissa Parks. Delissa Parks suffered from severe constipation during her pregnancy. This was actually a condition she had since she was a child, and she was under hospital care for it. She was dismissed, and her notes were not linked back to her pregnancy. And tragically, during her labor, she suffered multiple heart attacks, and her baby also suffered from severe brain injury. Delissa's life-threatening complications could have been avoided. Nicole Fia is another devastating example. Nicole was just 24 and was experiencing breathlessness in her pregnancy. She told her care team a few times, but it was dismissed as something that was normal. Nicole later died during her labor from a hereditary heart condition that was missed. Her story made headlines across the UK, and rightly so. Her death could have been avoided. My experience, and so many others like it, is the reason why Chloe and I set up our organization 5 times more back in 2019 to challenge these disparities and to create real change. Chloe was working in maternity at the time and saw firsthand some of the issues that Black women face. When I think back to my first pregnancy with my son, Ezekiel, I had preeclampsia that wasn't diagnosed until later on in my pregnancy. Preeclampsia is a life-threatening condition for both mum and baby. I will never forget the look of shock on my midwife's face when I turned up to my last appointment, looking like I had swallowed a house due to all the water retention. She took one look at me and told me to go straight to the hospital. At the hospital, I was induced. However, I wasn't believed when I told them I was in labor and I was in pain. I was dismissed, and eventually I ended up having an assisted birth via a ventouse. A ventouse is a suction cup placed on baby's head to help guide it out. And I always say, having an assisted delivery is not the end of the world. However, it could have been avoided if someone had just listened to me in the first place. I remember leaving that hospital feeling like I wasn't important and that my voice didn't matter. 5 times more is more than an organization. It's a movement. It's a safe space. It's a support system where Black women can come, share their experiences, and know they are not alone. We wanted action. And in 2020, we launched a government petition that went viral and gained 187,000 signatures in 1 week. This led to Black maternal health being debated in Parliament for the first time ever in its history. This wasn't just a win for us. This was a win for every single Black woman who has ever been ignored or neglected by the system. Even though we're 2 Black girls from South London, we are proof that your voice is never too small. Since then, we've gone on to influence policy, not just by demanding for change, but by working directly with healthcare professionals and policymakers. Because we know good care does exist. When I think back to the birth of my daughter Eden, it was in the height of COVID, so a very scary time. I couldn't have my husband in the room with me, and I felt quite vulnerable, but my midwife, she made all the difference. She was patient, she was kind, she was reassuring, but most importantly, she made me feel like I was in control of my birth. When I held my daughter, Eden, for the first time, I felt a rush of joy, relief, and gratitude. And that's what every single mother deserves. A safe and empowering birth experience where she feels respected and cared for. This should happen for everyone, not just the lucky few.
When I think back to my own birthing experience, I remember my midwife. She was warm, she was loving, she welcomed me with a big smile. I remember saying to her I wanted an epidural. To be honest, I didn't know what epidural was. I just knew it would take the pain away. My midwife gave me gas and air, and that's all I needed. My midwife really encouraged me. I remember her looking at my mum and saying, "Isn't she amazing? She's doing so well." I knew she only wanted the best for me. This should happen to every woman, not just a lucky few. So what can we do to ensure that every woman has a positive birth? There are a few things that health professionals can do, like actively listen to women, believe women, and treat women with kindness. But to address the underlying systemic problem, we need to focus on three things. First, we need clear policy goals. The government must set measurable targets to address these disparities. For example, the NHS could introduce compulsory data collection on ethnicity. Next is practice. Healthcare professionals need comprehensive training that goes beyond unconscious bias and focuses on conscious inclusion. For example, targeted training that focuses on recognizing symptoms on black skin. Finally, all of us. This is where we all come in. Advocacy is about community. It's about standing up for each other. It's about sharing stories and amplifying our voices, because this system wasn't designed for people who look like us. Tinuke and I have a vision of the future where black women no longer fear childbirth. A world where good care is the standard. This talk isn't just about black women and maternity. It's about people navigating a system that wasn't designed for them, whether it's healthcare, employment, or education. These systems often fail those who don't fit the mold. But change is possible. We are proof of that. When I think about the future, I imagine Tinuke's daughter, Eden, and my little sister, Sarah, and all the women living in your lives no longer having to talk about black women dying in pregnancy. This is what keeps us going. Thank you.
Thank you.